this Buick here, it is nice to see underneath it's got Willwood disc brakes all the way around. Of course, the classic Pro Touring 18 and 20-inch rims. Nice looking car. It is sold.
$37,000. Not a bad price for a Pro Touring Buick. And off she goes to take her sold sticker out into the night, just a few yards from where Rick DeBrule is standing. From our rail cam, we'll look down across the bidder area to a very interesting lot, a 1998 Pontiac Sunfire Piranha Mule Coupe. This may take some explaining.
Yeah, it was a one-of-a-kind engineering vehicle that was built by General Motors and some outside companies. General Motors and Barrett Jackson make no warranty or representation in terms of the fitness of this car for any particular purpose, and it says that the vehicle in its current state cannot be titled or licensed. We just want to get through that disclosure. Piranha, well, they never built one. I seem to recall seeing this at the SEMA show about 8 or 9 years ago when it was there in the GM performance display.
On the windshield is the indications of this car's uniqueness. The serial number ending in EX, I guess for experimental, but also it's got a GM, I want to say, inventory barcode tag here for company in-house cars coming and going, and a General Motors Proving Ground sticker, which indicates that they at least had the car either out to Milford or out here just outside Phoenix to the Desert Proving Grounds to do some testing. These concept cars were often used, of course, the body kit to gain attention, but GM engineers also had their hand under the hood and in the chassis to further develop powertrains for potential eventual use in the cars you could buy.
One of the many engineering mules and SEMA show cars built by John Moss and his band of engineers and aftermarket companies that built so many of these things throughout the 90s. And John retired from GM not too long ago, still building cars though, by the way. Something to keep in mind, guys, is that actually it's very uncommon for one of these experimental VIN tag vehicles to ever make it beyond the crusher once GM is done with it. Now this car here could well have served as a validation car, maybe even on public roads, before it took the custom paint and bodywork. It has a Tiptronic transmission, huge brakes, the supercharged Ecotec motor. So this kind of car right here may look a little gaudy, like some kind of a show car, but there's actually a lot of engineering underneath this. And the fact that GM will not allow a title to go with this car or for public use says that it's probably from their engineering department and a lot closer to the engineers than it is to the show field.
Definitely an interesting piece.
Well, I think the other part of that, Bob, is no liability assumed by General Motors and, quite likely, no replacement parts available.
I got to say, I did a story for Hot Rod magazine about 5-6 years ago about GM's behind the toy box. There were things like BMW-powered Chevy Impalas, Corvette station wagons, four-wheel steer IROCs. These are cars that weren't meant to be pretty, but they were evaluation vehicles for future potential product. This car here smells like a mule, and I think it's a pretty cool car that maybe, at this point, at $13,000 is not being appreciated.
Well, it's not exactly setting the bidders on fire.
But Steve, in these newer cars, with all of the GM engineering that goes into them, where would you ever replace the electronics for this car? Look at the one-off belt drive for the supercharger mount. I mean, all the technology that goes into there is available to a multi-billion-dollar company like GM. But when you need to fix it, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters?
And beyond that, I mean, you can't even really drive this anywhere. I'm sure that's what's scaring people away because, you know, if you get a really big estate, you're in good shape. Otherwise, you can't drive this car. That is a problem, yes.
Tim Asseter working the bidder area. That's our leading bidder sitting there. They've already purchased a car this evening.
So that is what for $16,000.68.
They have a nice large piece of property they can drive their car on.
Well, even though it is of limited use, that is just a tiny fraction of the money that was probably poured into that little Sunfire.
Actually going to drive that one away. Hear the supercharger whine. Let's go back to Rick DeBrule.
can email us at speedtv.com. Here's a good one I heard last night. Brian from Frisco, Texas asked that thousands of vehicles have applied for this auction, but only 1,200 or so were accepted. I'm curious as who chooses which cars and why. Well, that's a very, very carefully brewed mix that is done by Steve Davis, the president of Barrett Jackson Auctions. Of course, Craig Jackson weighs in on that, and they're trying to strike a balance between Mopars and GMs and 50s and early and late and high-dollar cars and affordable cars. So it's just one of those things like stew. You put in a little of this, now it's a little spicy, take out some of that. It's not an exact science, but yet it is an extreme science, and Steve and Craig spend a tremendous amount of effort blending this auction docket.
It's all about giving your customers what they want. Measuring the market, finding those cars, bringing them together, buyer and seller. The bidding is currently open on lot 457, a 1974 Torino GT 429 SCJ or Super Cobra Jet Fastback.
Now this is an unusual combination because we've talked about a lot of big block 429 Super Cobra Jet motors in Mustangs, but this is, I believe, the first one we have seen installed in the 1974 Torino body style. This is your mid-size muscle car and just a pretty rare piece, actually.
One thing, guys, this is actually a Super Cobra Jet which has 4 pistons, but you'll see there's an air conditioner here. The description of the car describes that as being dealer installed. It was not available from the factory with air conditioning.
And what a dealer, Steve. Casca Ford, East Providence, Rhode Island. They were the big drag racing Ford dealer in New England for many, many years. Bob Casca, member of the Motorsports Hall of Fame. He was honored by that group a couple of years ago. And if you had a Casca Ford going up and down the highway, that was one to watch out for.
That's right.
Now on stage is lot 706, 1963 Corvette split window coupe.
First year for the Stingray, of course, with the split window body style. Black, a great color on these cars. 62,000 original miles, claims to be unrestored and unmolested. I'm curious, guys, down on the block, the information we have says 250 horsepower, 327. Did they make such a thing?
Well, it's certainly the base engine. We can tell that from the painted, not the aluminum finned valve covers. And here the archaeological dig has to go a little deeper because, as said, this car is unrestored. And so this is what we mean by a survivor. This is a car that has not had a lot of attention. It may have had some paintwork at one time, but maybe not. You know, looking at a little bit of crazing on the fiberglass, if they told me this was an original paint job, I'd probably go with that. Under the hood, it's definitely original. There's enough surface rust, not damaging rust, but just this little bit of surface rust to say that this is a car that was driven and enjoyed and pretty well cared for, but I believe it is unrestored and substantially all original.
One female owner for 43 years. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, interesting bit of trivia. 1963 was the only year that coupe and roadster Corvette production would just about be even. After that point, roadsters outsold coupes by at least 25% every year.
Amy Sparks Sassiter on the left of the Blazer, one of the bidder's assistants. There's Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, and a very, very well-known car consultant. Specializes in Chevrolet products, as I recall. And also quite a collector in his own right. Hey, Reggie. And those competing bidders are standing close together. Interesting strategy.
By the way, when I'm talking about the roadsters outselling the coupe by 25%, I'm talking just about 63 to 67 Corvettes.
I like that split window style.
This is strong money for a low-power, power-glide car, so I think people are responding here to the low miles and that honest, well-earned patina.
Well, how many times do we have to say about they're only original once?
That's right. Some folks prize that originality more than others.
90,000. 90,000, 87, 90,000 Bendy, 87.90, now 5, 95 Roger, 95, 95, worth every penny, 95 sir, 95, 95, sir if you'll bid 95, he'll bid 100, you want to give 95?